Good afternoon and welcome to today's Ad Week webinar, where we will be looking at ways that you can take a hyper-personalized, really a modern approach to commerce. And that's the ways that you can unify data, content, and digital merchandising. And today's webinar is being sponsored by Acquia. I'm Stuart File, Vice President of Branded Content here at Adweek, and I am going to be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, I'm just going to take a few minutes here and make sure that everyone is familiar with the features of our webinar platform and really knows what to expect from today's webinar. And if you are hearing any banging in the background, I'm just going to apologize for that. As you know, we're all in places we don't have control over, and apparently someone in my apartment building has decided that this is the perfect moment for a little bit of construction. So not sure if people in the audience can hear that or not. And of course, now it's ended. So again, our presentation today should go somewhere in the 35-minute range, maybe a little bit longer. And after we have that slide presentation, we're going to have plenty of time for audience Q&A. So if at any point during our webinar today, if you have a question for our speakers, just simply use the question tool that you see there on the left side of your screen and submit your question, and we're going to get to as many audience questions as we can following our live presentation. Again, I urge you, please submit your questions when you have them. That way we've got everything queued up when we get to Q&A. It's not too late to invite your colleagues to come join us today, and we'd really love it if they would. About 15 minutes ago, we sent everyone a final reminder email for today's webinar, and in there you'll find a link over to the registration page, so grab that link out of that email, forward it over to your colleagues. There's still plenty of time for them to come on in, register, and join us live, but if they can't make it live, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand. And we're going to send a link to that on-demand version to all of our users later this afternoon. So check your email, about 3:30 Eastern time. You'll get that link to the on-demand version. We always like to make our slides available as well to our audience. And we know people like to grab a PDF of the deck so that they can have something to refer back to later on. And of course, they're available for this webinar as well. So you will find them in the event resources area. That's a tab up at the top of your screen. So go on in there. You can download a PDF of the deck. Finally, I just want to take a minute here and remind everyone to please check out the Adweek webinar calendar, www.adweek.com/webinars with an S. As you know, we do 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 webinars a week these days, and the webinar calendar is really the best place to go to know and check up on stuff. So see what's there. If you enjoy today, sign up for an upcoming webinar. You'll also get full access to our archive of on-demand webinars. That's every webinar that we've done over the past 12 months. They're all available there, and that includes several from our sponsor today, Acquia. So keep an eye out for those, and again, adweek.com/webinars. So let's move on to today's commerce data topics that are really top of mind for everyone over the past 12 months as all these behaviors have changed. We've all been doing our pivots, and of course it's all also about experience, and those are some of the things that our speakers today will be talking about, and we're very happy to be joined from Acquia. We've got Kevin Cochran. Kevin is the SVP of Product Marketing over there, longtime innovator in the digital experience space. Before this, he was CMO of SAP Customer Experience. He's also led marketing teams at a number of other tech companies, Interwoven, Adobe, Bloomreach, et cetera. Our guest speaker today is Kelly Gates. Kelly is the Chief Product Officer over at commercetools, where he oversees their product management, development, and delivery. He joined the company from Oracle, where he had led product management for its microservices initiatives. Kelly and Kevin, I want to welcome you both. And Kevin, over to you to start our webinar today.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for joining us for our conversation today. And, I really wanted to start out by maybe introducing myself. And over the past 10 years, we've all invested in a variety of different tools and technologies and strategies to gather a lot of data about our customers in specific activation channels in order to acquire them. We've acquired their profiles, we've segmented them, we've tried to reach them on email and on SMS. And at the end of the day, what I think we're all realizing here in these post-COVID times is that at some point in time, we lost the human connection with our customers, and we lost a little bit of empathy. We treated them like targets. They were just a number in the database. And actually, my name is not 6B65766960A0A. My actual name is Kevin, and I'm pleased to meet all of you here today. And what I thought I'd want to do is maybe share with you what I think hyper-personalization really means in these COVID times. I think it's really about showing empathy and really truly getting to understand who your customers are at a very deep and intimate level. And we all know this in our professional lives and our personal lives, because as we've tried to maintain connections with our coworkers, our colleagues, and our friends and family, we've had to learn about them in new ways. We get to sit and we get to watch our coworkers as their cat run across their desk or as a dog barks in the background. And I think in some odd way, even though we're more digital than ever, I think we're actually starting to learn how to relate to people in new ways. So what I thought is maybe I'd share with you a little bit about myself and how my behavior has changed with the way I interact with brands. Because once again, in these post-COVID times, what I've found is that what I used to be interested in doing, what I used to buy, those patterns, those preferences have changed. And so too has my buying patterns changed with respect to the brands that I engage. One of the things that I've learned is because I go outside of the home very infrequently, I tend to actually frequent those brands that I know and trust. Those brands where the people actually know about me and what I'm seeking to accomplish, and where there's really that deep and intimate connection. One of the brands that I frequent and continue to frequent even more so now in these post-COVID times is Dick's Sporting Goods. I love to go to Dick's Sporting Goods. I love the people that I see when I walk into the store. They know me by my name. They know all of the activities that I participate in. And one of the things that they know most about me is they know I'm a long-distance runner and that I tend to go on these crazy running journeys, like running from Los Angeles to San Francisco. All these different adventures that I used to do pre-COVID, it was always fun to go into Dick's Sporting Goods and tell them about my latest ultra, and of course, buy the next new pair of running shoes. And Lord knows, I bought a lot of running shoes from Dick's Sporting Goods. In fact, I would spend thousands of dollars a quarter on all of the various equipment that I needed for all the races that I ran. Now, unfortunately, post-COVID, times changed. Suddenly, all of the running that I used to do, I can no longer do. I couldn't fly anywhere. And every race that was local to me, canceled. And so one of the things that I thought was really, really nice was when I was able to go back to Dick's Sporting Goods, people understood my plight. People understood that I wanted to maintain my health and be active and rigorous. And actually what Dick's did was a wonderful thing, which is they actually helped me define a new hobby. And they got me into boxing. So suddenly, I'm now, again, a loyal Dick's fan. And now I have, every time I go to Dick's, I'm not buying the new running shoes and the new running gear. I'm buying all sorts of new equipment for my home gym. And I'm getting into a whole new range of activities that I can do in the safety and security of my own home without running risk for any COVID exposure, and I'm maintaining my health. A wonderful experience, and I think it really showed the empathy that the employees at Dick's showed me as a loyal customer. And again, I think when we think about hyper-personalization in these post-pandemic times, it's less about understanding how to best acquire and target a customer. It's more about understanding their intent and how we can help them and how we can really build that empathy and that human connection on a one-to-one scale. And of course, that one-to-one scale is also best typified by my friend Gary. He's not really my friend, but it feels like he's my friend. He's my barista at Starbucks. And every single morning when I walk into Starbucks, he always greets me by my name, and he's always excited to see me. And again, much like Dick's Sporting Goods, in the post-pandemic time, I actually wound up buying my own coffee maker and making my own coffee in the morning because I couldn't go to the local Starbucks because it was closed. But what was wonderful was even though my morning routine changed, when the store opened back up, I did go back to the Starbucks, and Gary was excited to see me. And the first thing he said is, "You probably bought a coffee maker, but we have the best beans, and you need to buy it from us." So I don't go to Starbucks every single day anymore, but I do go once a week, say hi to Gary, and pick up my new coffee beans now that I have my new routine in these post-COVID times. And this is a good example. Dick's Sporting Goods, my local barista, people that actually consider their customers and consider what they're trying to achieve and deeply trying to understand how they can help them, even when some of their past behaviors aren't necessarily indicative of the new preferences and buying patterns that they have. And what we have found and what research has shown is that most companies, despite all of their investment in different MarTech solutions and different data strategies, less than 8% really have a clear winning strategy for them to have deep, intimate understanding of their customers. Now, we live in disruptive times. The only certainty in 2021 is uncertainty. And the disruption that consumers are facing is also related to the disruption that brands are facing. And the most important thing to do during disruptive times is to think differently about the demographic shifts and the shifts in consumer buying patterns and coming up with a new approach to really understand how to build that one-to-one connection with your customer. And when you think about that, remember, your customer is hoping you do this. I think over 10 years, we grew tired of the semi-personalized email that we actually knew was not personalized at all. I think we all grew tired of the ads that were bombarding us on Facebook and on Google. And at the end of the day, customers are just looking for someone to understand who they are. They know you have information about them in the call center. They know that you have information about their past buying patterns. They know you have information about their online activity. And what they're asking you to do is they're asking you to figure out and help them by understanding what they're trying to accomplish, what their personal goal is. And for organizations to win in these post-pandemic times, organizations need to move quickly to put in place a new data strategy to help empower every employee to understand the goal that their customer is seeking to achieve and to make the smart decisions that are necessary for them to help their customer on their own personal journey. Organizations need to move fast. Agility matters. It's time to start empowering all of our employees by connecting our systems and truly understanding each individual customer's unique intent. And the reason why this is critical is, again, our customers have changed. Their buying journey is now online. They're binging on content. And the things that they used to buy that you would normally expect to try to promote to them have changed substantially. Again, look at my example of Starbucks or what I purchased from Dick's Sporting Goods. And most importantly, what's most changed about customers, I would posit, is that they are less likely to interact with multiple brands, but much more likely to spend time and money with the brands that they know and they trust. Agility matters because each and every one of you wants to be that brand that your customer spends a disproportionate amount of their time and dollars in this post-COVID age because you know them better than anybody else. Now, this is really hard because, again, we've spent so much time and money and energy building so many different systems, and we've done wonderful work there. However, what we forgot to do up front is put in place a data strategy to actually unify all of the information from all of these activation channels and internal systems so that we can truly start empowering our employees to know who their customers are on a one-to-one basis. So what we believe very strongly is that to move fast, we need to take a step back and first and foremost, put in place a new approach to unify our view of the customer and to leverage the ability of every employee to understand who that customer is and to empower each and every employee to make the smart day-to-day decisions that they need in order to help the customer, whether they're a digital marketer looking to promote the next best content that will help the online researcher on their journey, whether that is the agent in the call center that needs to have those targeted recommendations so they can facilitate a customer conversation and help them, or whether that's the agent in the store that's looking to help the customer get in and out quickly so they don't have much lingering exposure being indoor with a number of people who may or may not be socially distancing properly or may not be wearing a mask properly. It's time to put in place a strategy for unifying all of our first-party data and worry less about trying to buy customer eyeballs and ads on Facebook or on Google, but to find ways to truly engage our customers online using all of the deep, intimate knowledge that we have about them and that they expect us to use on their behalf. So what we believe really strongly, it's really all about putting in place a platform for driving intelligence. It's about putting in place a customer data platform so that everyone, your marketers, your CRM leaders, your analytics leaders, can all start providing insights to the organization in order to help them drive customer success. Now, we here at Acquia, we've had the wonderful ability to help many of our customers put this data-first strategy in place and have some wonderful success helping our customers build those one-to-one relationships with their customers in these post-COVID times. So I thought I'd give you just maybe a couple of examples of just some standout success stories that I think are instructive of what I think many, can model off of. One of my favorites, of course, is Godiva. And obviously, with Godiva, one of the central challenges is with store closures, suddenly their ability to have customers actually go into the store and actually buy their confectionery goods was no longer possible. So how was Godiva during the pandemic able to build and maintain their relationship with their customers and transition them to the online channel? How were they also able to uncover what buying patterns would be different when the customer's buying online versus walking into the store? So what Godiva did is Godiva, again, unified all of their data across all of their online and offline operations, and they were able to uncover key changes in who their customers were and what they were buying and pivot exceptionally quickly in order to help their customers get the right product at the right time to meet their needs and expectations. One of the wonderful benefits of this is by uncovering how to best transition offline customers into online, Godiva was able to see a massive increase in their online traffic, as well as a massive increase in online revenue. Some of the statistics here are just a tip of the iceberg for some of the wonderful things that Godiva was able to do. And of course, with stores reopening, Godiva has also been able to very successfully discover how to migrate online customers back into the store, depending on the location where the customer is. Another great example is one of our clients, Moose Jaw. And in Moose Jaw's particular case, what they uncovered is how do you elucidate what is the customer's end objective, and how can you discover their intent, and how can you fuel the exact right content that they need in order to learn what they need to learn in order for them to accomplish their goal. In Moose Jaw's case, using advanced machine learning against the unified customer profile, they were able to discover at scale that intent on a one-to-one basis and ultimately drive massive customer success that in turn led to massive success for their business during these post-COVID times. Acquisition costs down, revenue per channel up, and obviously conversion rates through the roof. Another wonderful example of someone who put in place that first-party data strategy and then again really took the time to really analyze and understand each unique customer's unique needs and then deliver at scale that one-to-one experience that delivered real business results. Now, in order to really mobilize a first-party data strategy, we couldn't be more excited to partner with commercetools, because specifically the end goal of what we're trying to accomplish, particularly for people that are stuck at home during this pandemic, is being able to fill their requirements for the products and services that they need at the right time. And our goal, because we're all so time sliced in Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, is to accelerate that path to purchase, make it fast, simple, and easy for them to discover what they need in the moment, and then, of course, fulfill at lightning speed so that they can get what they need when they need it. Our overall goal is to make sure that we can supercharge that customer experience and, in turn, supercharge the ability for customers to be able to get whatever goods or services that they need, wherever they need it, in the moment. By first and foremost knowing your customers, making certain that shoppable experiences are on every device and one click away. We want to be able to help you personalize the end-to-end journey and power intelligent promotions. And in the case of people like Godiva, for example, unify digital and physical experiences to help people as they transition from online to offline, depending on whatever the current state of lockdowns or other COVID protective measures are in place in their local area. And at the end of the day, because your brand is nothing more than the sum total of all of the experiences that your employees deliver to their customers each and every day, the most important thing is to empower all of your employees with all of the personal information that they need and all of the intelligence that they need in order to make smarter decisions to best help the customer, whether they're in the store, in the call center, or creating a new digital campaign for your online channels. And of course, in order to best understand your customer on that deep one-to-one level, openness is key. Openness in terms of integrating your data sources, openness into discovering new possibilities, openness to sharing information with your employees, and openness to thinking differently and thinking everything now through a more empathetic human lens and being more of someone that's there to help your customers rather than someone there looking to sell your customers. And so what we believe is in a new future, a data-first future, centralizing that customer data profile and uniting the worlds of content and data to be able to provide the deep intelligence, that one-to-one understanding at scale of your customers through advanced machine learning to help orchestrate a journey, and with our key partner here, commercetools, to fulfill a rich, shoppable experience that excites the customer, helps them live a better life, and get what they need when they need it. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my fine colleague and partner, Kelly at commercetools. Kelly, over to you.
Thanks, Kevin. I'd like to talk a little bit about the commerce space and how we partner together to enable this vision that Kevin very eloquently laid out. So I'd like to talk a little bit about commerce and trends. We're very firm believers, and I think we share that with Acquia as well, that innovation requires iteration. And it used to be that retailers would release to production once a month, once a quarter. I even worked with a retailer that released to production once a year, and it was an all hands on deck. Everyone had to drop what they were doing and spend a whole weekend in the office, and all of the systems were released at the same time. And obviously, in today's climate, and I know it almost sounds a little cliche to say, but in today's fast-changing world, it's really important to be able to release very quickly to production. And an example of where that was helpful is Best Buy, for example, released curbside pickup on, March 18th. So that was 2 days after national lockdowns began. So they very quickly pivoted, and they had a blockbuster Q2 as a direct result of their very quick transformation. And where this also helps is many features take a number of iterations to perfect over time. So it's often not just enough to release a feature and get it correct the first time. In many cases, you have to release a feature 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then watch how users work with it and tweak it to get it to the point where it's generating revenue. So we're really big believers in that, and we share that with Acquia as well. And part of how we're doing that collectively as an industry and our respective companies is through microservices. And if you haven't heard that term before, it's actually the architecture that powers a lot of what you see on the internet and generally across technology. It was actually pioneered by Amazon back in about 2005 and has since become the default. But with microservices, you have small vertical teams, typically 5 to 7 people. And there you have front-end developers, you have back-end developers, you have infrastructure people, and they come together and expose a single piece of functionality to the world through an API. An API is kind of the gateway. And an example of this might be a pricing microservice or an inventory microservice. And where that fits into what Kevin was talking about is we at commercetools offer up data and functionality, and then business users in Acquia can actually go and place those products on the website, create those emotionally compelling banners, really work with your customer by engaging with them. But it's really the ability to surface that data and functionality through individual discrete microservices that makes all of that work behind the scenes. We also see commerce moving from a web destination to a part of our everyday lives. So on the left, that's a screenshot of Walmart.com in 95, 96, and 97. That's how it looked. A guy standing there in a vest saying, "Let's go shopping." And now if we look at commerce, it's really integrated into our everyday lives. It's people like Kevin ordering coffee beans, for example. It's people ordering food and picking it up in restaurants. People are buying cars these days all online. It's wearable devices. It's really everywhere that we see this taking place. So it's fundamentally a different style of architecture, one that's not extremely web-based. Instead, it's very much of, and I even hate to use this term because I think it's a little bit overdone, but an omni-channel world that we are in. Something else you have to look at is what's called headless commerce. And this is something that we at commercetools invented, and we partner very closely with Acquia on. But with traditional e-commerce platforms, you have the front end, right, which is called the head. That's what the business users and the end customers interact with. That was tightly coupled in one package with the back end. Those two were inseparable. And the difficulty of that is if you look on the left, that's what a traditional website looks like. My German colleagues call these web shops, but they're very cookie cutter, point and click. And there's no real way to get differentiation there. You can't really engage with your customers. And on the right, this is Burberry. This is an example of one of our customers. They build a very compelling, emotionally engaging experience. And this experience is business user driven, it's marketing driven, they can change it whenever they want. It's completely decoupled from the back end. So it's a really different approach, but when you're selling non-commoditized goods, as I think just about everybody here is, it's really, really important that you go headless and give your business users the tools they need to engage with your end customers. We also see a rise in new architecture patterns that have enabled microservices and APIs and everything else. There's been a pretty silent revolution there behind the scenes. And actually, a lot of that came from Andy Jassy and team, who just got promoted to CEO of Amazon, now that Jeff Bezos has stepped away. But if you look at AWS revenue, and I use that as a proxy for overall cloud maturity, AWS and public cloud in general gave rise to all of these great new things: cloud computing, NoSQL databases, which allow you to store very large amounts of data, and that's very centralized data that you can then query and use for personalization. It enabled microservices, headless commerce. All of these things really emerged in the past 10 or 15 years. They're all pretty new. And what's also interesting is to look at customer touch points, which also arose as these new architecture patterns changed. And maybe the two are even related in some way. It's hard to draw a definitive answer there, but I think that the two are. But in the mid-2000s, we have all these social media networks. We have Instagram in 2010. And then about the mid-2010s or so, we start to see all of these cheap consumer electronic devices. So we have the Tide for the washing machines, where you can press the button and get more Tide delivered to your door. You have the smart devices, which I will not name because I think it'll trigger everyone's smart device. We have wearable glasses. We have just about everything you can think of is now capable of facilitating a commerce transaction and an experience with your customer. So it's fundamentally a new world out there, and there are many more places you have to engage. And it's no longer enough just to have a web presence. You now have to have a presence on multiple devices, and those presences have to be complementary to each other. Couple quick stats about us. We are the leader in the next generation of commerce platforms. I won't go into too much detail here, but there's a specific reason Acquia chose us, because we're very complementary to their stack. And if you look in the next slide, this is just a quick summary of where we placed in the latest analyst reports. So we're happy that the analysts have finally recognized what we do as being different and innovative and unique. And this is where we fit in context. So you have commercetools APIs, right? And we have a big library of 300 of them. You then have custom microservices that you build. So maybe you build your own pricing microservice or inventory microservice or loyalty microservice. You have those that you build independently. And then you put an API management layer over the top of those APIs. And here your goal is to build a big catalog of APIs that can be consumed across many different devices and facilitate many different experiences. So Acquia sits up here, provides all the personalization, the customer experience, all of that is facilitated by Acquia. And then there's content delivery on top of that to accelerate that content. And then those front ends and that experience is pushed out to all of these different channels, be it browser, mobile, social, point of sale in many cases. It's a pretty big array of experiences that together we facilitate. And then finally, where we fit, and I think Acquia is quite complementary here as well, is we're kind of in between the suite, which I talked about being the cookie cutter all in a box, standardized templates, and on the right, which is more this hand-built approach. And if you look on the left, think of that as a tracked home, right? They do a great job. They're perfectly functional, but it's really difficult to customize and extend them, right? But they do the standard use case really well. And in the e-commerce world, those are great for traditional stores, right? If you're a mom and pop shop and you're selling some widgets, or maybe you're selling copycat Bernie gloves, for example, Bernie mittens, you probably want a suite. You want to go somewhere where you can just get the standard set of functionality really quickly. That's not something that either of us are really interested in. On the right side, on the other hand, that's what Walmart and Target and a few other retailers have done. And there you go out and you build everything from scratch that's $100+ million a year. There you're building everything entirely top to bottom from scratch. And of course, you can build whatever you want, right? You could build yourself the Winchester home if you wanted to. But there's nothing stopping you. Where we fit really well is kind of in the middle, where you have a manufactured home and you say, you know what, I want to get my core commerce pieces from commercetools. I want to get my display from Acquia, but I want to build my own loyalty API because loyalty is a really big deal to me and my customers. I want to engage with those customers. Therefore, I want to build that on my own. And I think that's where the two solutions really come together, is being able to very easily and seamlessly buy where it makes sense, but also build as well. And there's a good delineation there between build and buy. And I think we strike a good balance there in the middle. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to wrap us up. Thank you all.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. And again, we couldn't be more excited to partner with commercetools here at Acquia, because as we discussed, we need to move fast and we need to make smarter decisions, and we need to be able to rapidly compose and deliver new shoppable experiences that really help our customer on our journey. And what we're seeing here is a new best-of-breed stack that really is helping to provide all of the core services that each of you hopefully need in order to deliver a new type of digital experience, a new empathetic digital experience that helps your customers, and to deliver it very, very rapidly. And ultimately, at the end of the goal, we would like to leave you with just kind of 5 key thoughts of what really are the key ingredients for really delivering that one-to-one experience for your customers. First and foremost, making certain that you have that gold standard of a first-party data strategy. You cannot know your customer unless all of those data silos are unified so that your employees can actually know who your customer is on the moment. And of course, you need to understand that the customer isn't only just interacting with you on one channel. They're not only interacting with you just online. Your customer is living their life, and they're living their life in multiple places. They have their wearable, they're walking into your store, they're driving in their car. Integrating all of those online and offline behaviors into that unified view of your customer is critical. And also very importantly is changing the culture to move away from just thinking of your customer as another row in a database, but truly unlocking curiosity, truly unlocking empathy, and leveraging the power of machine learning to really deliver insights to your employees so that they can really give that one-to-one personal experience regardless of what function they're in. And most importantly, fulfilling customer expectations by integrating services from commercetools so you can deliver those shoppable experiences so the customer, once they've done their online research, they can actually click and buy and get fulfilled with the products and services that they need in the moment. And as Kelly so elegantly spoke to, keeping your architecture open, extensible, leveraging a microservices approach so that as the world continues to deal with massive uncertainty, that at any point in time you could rapidly pivot, innovate new services, innovate new experiences, and integrate new experiences for your customer. First-party data strategy, integrating online and offline behavior, building that culture of curiosity, data science-driven, building a composable stack for commerce, and maintaining the openness and flexibility and scalability we believe are key for delivering that hyper-personalized commerce experience. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to our fine moderator for any possible Q&A.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Kelly. Fine moderator back here. Thank you. Stuart File back here from Adweek. Again, to everyone, we're going to move into some audience questions in just a second. They've been coming in fast and furious. Kevin and Kelly, I just want to thank you. Really great presentation. I can just tell from audience engagement, people were getting some great value out of this, and a really nice personal approach to personalization here. If you do have a question for our speakers, just simply use the question tool that you see there on the left side of your screen. We're going to get to as many as we can over the next 10 minutes or so. Also want to just remind people, first up, we did get a bunch of people asking, if you do want a copy of today's slides, you can get a PDF of the slide deck right now, and you'll find it up in the Event Resources tab that you see up there at the top of your screen. So head on in there, you can get a PDF of the slides. Also, today's webinar has been recorded, and we're going to make it available on demand, just as soon as it renders when we're all done. So give it about an hour, but you don't have to worry about that. We're going to send you an email with notification, probably about 3:30 Eastern time today. So check your email. You'll get that link. Feel free to share that with your colleagues. We'd love it if they would come in and check out the recording. Better yet, have them register. If the recording's there, once they register, it'll start to play. Otherwise, we are going to send them that same notification once it's ready. All right, I'm just going to move in. Let me put up our speakers here, and let's move into some of these questions that are coming in here, gentlemen. And let's just start off a little bit. And Kevin, let me sort of direct this one to you here. One of the things we talk a little bit about here is digital merchandising. Merchandising in particular, look, it's always been part of the commerce world, right? Back in the days of shopper marketing, everyone was you're buying shelf space in a store. Well, now you've got digital shelf space. So can you talk a little bit about merchandising and what some of the people in our audience might be doing in terms of ways to optimize product discovery?
Yeah, and I would also love for Kelly to follow on this as well. But I think we've had a silo problem with merchandising as well. So, you would have your online, your basic brand.com, and it would have its own digital marketing team. Then you would have your separate web shop, and then it would have its merchandising team. But then you had everything that was happening in the store and separate merchandising team. You had everything that was going out in print, maybe connected, maybe not connected to your store merchandising. And whatever was happening in the call center was its own little separate silo. So you had this lack of connectedness. And I think with open architectures like commercetools and Acquia, what you're actually able to now do is you're able to integrate the data and integrate the experience and integrate the services across all of those touch points. Now, the reason why this is important is specifically for a merchandising perspective, because if you're able to uncover a customer intent, if you're able to understand their goal, well, if they start typing into a search box, which by the way they shouldn't, because that already means they failed to see what they needed to see in the moment, but we'll come back to that in a moment. If they start typing in the search box, you should be immediately promoting exactly what they need in that search box. Now, again, they shouldn't even be going to the search box, because the very first thing that they're going to be seeing displayed in a nice, rich, interactive experience needs to be the exact product that, to the best of your employees' knowledge, based on everything that they understand about that individual, is probably what they need. So, for example, when I walk into Starbucks, they're not selling me a grande Americano anymore. They're selling me coffee beans, right? But that experience online is also what needs to be in the store, because when I go into Dick's Sporting Goods, the agent should also have that exact same information at their disposal with a set of recommendations, so that when they're talking to me, they can actually say, hey, Kevin's probably more interested in, additional weights to, flush out his home gym versus going in and buying new running socks, right? And of course, that same merchandising behavior also needs to be clued into whatever you're doing in terms of personalized print that you're sending to the customer in mails, like custom catalogs and so on and so forth. So I think the world of merchandising needs to be very, very different. Number one, it needs to be integrated across all shoppable experiences, whether they're, digital only or digital assisted, like through an agent in the call center or in the store. Second, merchandising can't be based on fixed, rigid rules that a group of, digital merchandisers say, if it's this, then that. It needs to be completely machine learning powered, because that's the only way you can truly get to a one-to-one individualized experience, because human beings just don't scale. They just don't scale. You can't hire enough human beings to drive one-to-one. So a lot of merchandising decisions need to be much more like Google. It needs to be completely hyper-personalized through machine learning. So those are the two takeaways. The world of merchandising, very, very different. Tip of the spear for personalized experiences. Got to unite the data, got to unite the experiences, and absolutely must apply machine learning at scale. And that's, again, part of the reason why we're so excited about this partnership here with commercetools. Kelly, anything you'd like to add there?
I think a lot of it comes back to product data and making sure that that data is good. In many cases, shelves of products are just posted, and with shelves of data posted, it's really hard to drive anything meaningful. You can't really execute machine learning algorithms against that kind of data. You're missing a lot, basically. The other is just real omnichannel, and it's still surprisingly elusive for many organizations to have an actual single source of truth for product data across an enterprise. It's often fragmented in many different systems. So I know it's kind of basic, but those two things are really important.
Got it. Kevin, another question came in as you were delivering your part of the presentation here, and it was really looking at sort of understanding, I guess the term would be appropriate level of personalization, right? And should this be varying by brand? Should it be varying by the individual? And how do you ultimately identify that? As an example, you share your Starbucks experience, your Dick's Sporting Goods experience, but if you walked into Starbucks and Kevin, your barista, met you and said, "I hear you've taken up boxing on your first entry there," you might be.
I would not like it at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that at all.
As part of that. Yeah. So where do you go with all that? Yeah, no, I think it all gets down to progressively deepening your relationship with your customer over time, and progressively capturing more data about your customer as your customer discloses that data to you, specifically for the purpose of you understanding what they're trying to accomplish and delivering them a personal benefit. So what I think we've done wrong up until now is procure a lot of data from a lot of third-party sources about our customers, and then the very first time I go to a brand, they're targeting me with certain product recommendations or whatnot, and my first question is, why the heck are you promoting that to me? Like, where did you happen to get one sliver of what my profile is and totally misread what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Brands that try to target me based on third-party data and only a narrow slice and a narrow view of what I'm trying to accomplish always get it wrong, and it annoys the heck out of me. So what I believe the future is, it's basically for customers, they'll start buying from a brand, and in purchasing from a brand, they start building up a profile of that customer. And then because the customer has been doing business with them and giving them more information, the customer expects you to use that information for their benefit. So I do think, there's a better emphasis on customer loyalty, customer intimacy, and, progressive capture of data that the customer consents to give you, that you also should use appropriately. Kelly, anything for you to add there?
Yeah, probably 75% of the time I get emails that call me Mrs. Gage, and they just assume that from my name. And when I see Mrs. Gage in an email or on a receipt for something, I think to myself, where on earth did they get that information from? Must be some algorithm deep in some system thinking that I am a woman. So anyway, quite frustrating, and I see that firsthand all the time.
Perfect example there, Kelly. Thank you. Kelly, as you were giving your part, somebody did ask you, you were talking a little bit about headless commerce. Can you give maybe just a clear, I mean, this could be a whole other webinar, but can you just maybe give sort of another quick example just to sort of help really identify what we mean by headless commerce?
Sure. Historically, the commerce platforms had the front end built into them. So if you wanted to manage a page layout, for example, or change the home page or build a brand new page, you had to do that in the commerce platform. And I've always thought that was a terrible idea. I think Acquia is a much, much better platform. It's built for explicitly that. That should be the head. That should be what is surfaced to your end customers. And I think the commerce platform trying to do that is very misguided. So headless commerce is just the commerce platform exposing data and functionality through APIs, typically REST APIs. And it's a nice clean delineation between what we offer in the commerce platform, right? We expose the data and functionality, and then we surface that to Acquia, and then they consume that data and functionality and actually build the experiences for end shoppers.
Great. So the idea being that the brand, the retailer, the whomever it is, has an idea of the experience that they want their audience to have. So they have the ability to control that experience, but not control all the back-end commerce functions. That's where, again, they've got the head, you've got the, I don't know, what is the opposite of head, tail in a situation like this? I'm sorry, I don't,
the body.
Yeah, the body, but you're in that, in that, so that's what we're talking about in a situation like this. So again, a much cleaner shopping experience, and it's not all of those, as you showed, 6 pairs of pants, going through there, which works as well for, I don't know, the Gap as it does for Burberry, even if it's an entirely different brand, an entirely different experience.
Yeah.
Right.
And look,
okay,
if you're gonna have someone part with $1,000 to buy a nice jacket, you can't just have that standard product grid that looks like every other website on the market. You need to create an emotionally engaging, compelling experience, and you do that through Acquia and through business users and marketers who know the customer. IT can't do that.
Got it. That's great. Listen, gentlemen, we are getting towards the end of our time here. So I do want to just, again, thank you both for both your presentation and for taking some time here to take a few audience questions. Again, everyone, let me just get this Acquia slide here. So just some final reminders here to our audience. First of all, if we didn't get to your question, I will make sure all the questions do get forwarded over to our sponsor, so there's the opportunity for an offline response. Just a quick reminder here as well, if you want the slides, you'll find them in Event Resources. Check your email, 3:30 today. We're going to send you a link to the on-demand reporting. And lastly, of course, adweek.com/webinars, our webinar calendar. See what we've got coming up. Join us for an upcoming webinar as they are going to help you. And again, our job here, which is to give you a great experience and help you learn more about some of the trends going on in the world of marketing and as marketing expands into worlds of commerce and experience and all the things that we cover now. Again, adweek.com/webinars. So thanks to our sponsor, Acquia, and our speakers, Kevin Cochran, the SVP of Product Marketing at Acquia, and Kelly Gage, the Chief Product Officer over at commercetools. I want to thank our audience for taking time out of your busy day, and we look forward to seeing everyone at an upcoming Ad Week webinar.